Welcome to Unit 14, Considerations in Academic and Professional Writings. Our learning competency in this unit is that you will be able to explain how one's purpose is a crucial consideration in academic and professional writing. Our lesson 3 is entitled Professional Writing, the Purpose, Audience, and Aspects. Specific objectives that we should hit at the end of this lesson is that you will be able to identify the purposes, audience, and general features of professional writings. And also, you should be able to identify some common formats of professional writing. What are the similarities between academic and professional writing? Both styles need well-developed ideas that are communicated precisely and clearly, and the tone is serious in both writing, whether reporting on research in an academic setting or making recommendations on how to improve a corporation's profitability. Now, what about the differences of the academic and the professional writing? So, one of the biggest differences between academic and professional writing is that the academic writing is done mostly to showcase your research and expertise in a specific area or topic of interest, while in professional writing, it is often done to influence or convince someone of something. What are the features and types of professional writing? So we all know that a memorandum, a resume, and a business letters are some of the types of professional writing. And its features focus on the organization, support, and elaboration, as well as grammatical convention and style. Here is an essential question that we need to ponder. How do the purpose and audience influence the format of writing? In the professional field, it is also mandatory for one to recognize the aspects and formats of the kinds of writings one uses for specific purposes. In this lesson, we will focus on the professional style of writing. This type of writing will be of particular use when you begin your career or engage in business. So, what are the purposes of professional writing? First, it is to inform or share information with its audience. The second one is to persuade or build goodwill with the audience. These are the aspects of professional writing. First is the purpose. It should answer the question, what are the objectives in writing the document? So, what is the goal you want to achieve in writing the professional text? Next is the audience. And it should answer the question, who will read the document? The readers of your professional text. Example, your instructor, your thesis panelist, or your employer, or the principal. The third one is the stakeholders. So, what are the objectives in writing the document, and who will benefit from the document, or who may be affected by it? So, the internal or external staff who will be affected by the writing. The last aspect is the context. So, when we talk about the context, it is the situation you might find yourself in when you are in a workplace. Example, what is the background of the document and what specific situation prompts you to write it. A business letter is a correspondence between businesses and individuals. So, in writing a business letter, the format should be formal, and you need to consider the sender's address, the date, the inside address, the salutation, the body, which is often to be a block or modified block formats, the closing, the enclosures, and other considerations. A resume, something that we are very familiar. It is a brief document that contains information on the skills and personal background of a person seeking a job. Next is a memorandum or a memo. This is the internal means of communication of a company, and it is usually a brief message sent to the concerned personnel regarding any new information, such as a new policy or a procedure. This is a business proposal, and it is a written document that contains a plan or a suggestion for developing a product, service, or action that can address a client's problem or issue. It can also help your business secure investors if it is written well. Other characteristics of professional writing: it should be more impactful, so it should hit your audience. Next is it is more specific, so you need to be concise and precise, no flowering words. And the last one, it has less freedom in terms of format and content. Here I present to you an example of a memorandum or a memo. Let's analyze the text using the guide questions here. First question is, what type of professional writing is the text? The second question is, what is its primary purpose? The third question is, who may be affected by the document? Next, what is expected of the recipient after reading the memo? And the last question is, what prompted the writer to construct the text? So let's analyze the text. The text here is an example of a memorandum. It was written to call the attention of an employee regarding his repeated absences without prior notice. Aside from calling the employee's attention, it also states here the reasons why the employee needs to follow a certain protocol whenever he needs to be absent. It also mentions that disciplinary measures may be enforced in case the employee does not comply with the company's rules. The memo also requires the employee to acknowledge its receipt. The recipient of this type of memo is expected to comply with the company's rules and improve his or her performance and behavior afterward. Such a memo is only given when a certain action of an employee affects his or her work duties as well as the work of others in the company and goes against certain policies and processes of a company. Now, let's go back to our essential question on how do the purpose and audience influence the format of writing. The purpose and audience influence the format of writing because when doing professional writing, one's aim depends on the person who will receive the text as well as the context for which the document was written. Another reason is that in professional writing, certain circumstances call for a specific format of text. For example, someone who will apply for a job will write a resume and not another type of business letter. We are now in Lesson 4, the general features of professional writing and some considerations. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to determine the general features of professional writing and take note of the considerations when doing professional writing. Before proceeding to our proper discussion, let's think about this. What is the importance of being concise and precise in professional writing? Here are the general features of professional writing. So the first one is professional writing generally uses formal language. So what are those formal language? Formal language are characterized by the use of standard English, and they are more complex sentence structures, and it has a lack of colloquial or slang terms. Example is this informal sentence. This experiment worked out just fine. So if you want to write it in a formal language, it becomes this experiment was successful. Next is the professional writing is concise and precise. So what does it mean being concise and precise? Meaning it means to be exact, accurate and using a few words as much as possible but still conveying the full meaning. The next one is the professional writing can use the first, second, or third person point of view depending on the context. So the use of I, we, they, he or she. And the fourth feature is a professional writing often uses the active voice. So business writers should prefer active voice for most documents. Why? Because it is more direct and concise than passive voice. Next is a professional writing uses a direct object but respectful tone. And the last one is a professional writing uses both persuasive and informative strategies. So if your aim is to inform, so you need to use the words that convey that you are informing. And if your speech is or your letter is the purpose of this is to persuade, so the letter should aim to persuade your readers to perform a certain action. There are some considerations in professional writing. The first one is the purpose of writing in any profession should be clear. The second one is the audience should always be considered. Considering your audience is something that you should do before writing your letter. If you are a student, your audience will be your instructor or your thesis committees or your principal. So, taking your audience into account will affect the content of your writing. For example, if you assume that your readers are familiar with the subject that you are writing, you will not provide much background information. And another one is the audience and purpose are interconnected. If the audience knows less than the writer, the purpose is instructional. But if the audience knows more than the writer, as is the case with students, the purpose will be demonstration of knowledge and expertise. So, you should be aware of the purpose of your writing as it is a decisive factor. The third one is the organization of ideas makes the writing readable to the audience. So, it is also very important to consider your organization. It is a matter of priorities and structure. So your audience has this expectation that the information will be presented in a structured format that is suitable for the genre of the text. So other factors such as relevance, coherence and flow, cohesion and texture, context and message should be taken into account. And the last one is the design of the text adds to the professional look of the documents. Here I present to you an example of a business letter. Let's analyze this using the guide questions here. First question is, what can you say about the diction used in the text? The second question, is the number of words used appropriate to the type of text? How so? The third question is, what point of view is used in the selection? Next, what can you comment about the tone used by the person who wrote the text? And the last question is, who is expected to read such kinds of professional write-ups? So here is an example of a business letter, and it has a neutral diction because its aim is for the receiver to clearly understand what the writer wants to convey in his or her letter. Additionally, the words are concise and precise. Also, since the business letter is in a form of request, the sender used both the third person point of view to show formality and the first person point of view to make it clear that the sender is part of the group making the request. This text uses language and structure that are appropriate and that are expected of professional writes-up. Because the message and structure are appropriate for the intended audience, the intended audience of the letter is the principal, so the formal language and tone used in the letter is appropriate. Now, going back to our essential question on what is the importance of being concise and precise in professional writing, It is important for one to be precise and concise in professional writing so that the person that the writing is intended for would clearly understand what the sender wants to convey. And another reason is so that the document is straight to the point and does not contain irrelevant information. And that's it. That concludes our Unit 14 Considerations in Academic and Professional Writings. See you on the next lesson.